PlayStation.
Exclusive articles and tools. Top leagues and tournaments. Best stories in sports. On ESPN Plus.
A lot of excitement around Rose Hill Gym and around this Fordham Athletics program. Fordham Director of Athletics Ed Colt joins me as Fordham begins to make some totally new headway in the NIL space. You know, Ed, it's a seismic shift in college athletics that's been talked about ad nauseum, but try and describe how NIL, name, image, likeness, affects Fordham and its student athletes.
Seismic shift for sure, Mike. It's a good way to put it. And whether you like it or not, name, image, and likeness is here, and it's here to stay. And how do we best equip our student athletes, our coaches, as well as, of course, our alumni, fans, and supporters with as much information as possible on how to proceed in a correct and legal fashion is what we've been trying to really focus on. So we got aggressive probably about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, with a bunch of education. We brought in Jeremy Darlow to help do some curriculum with our student athletes on what a brand is, how do you build a brand, behavior on social media, what profiles should look like. We did some partnerships early on with Influencer as well as Team Ultimus. Influencer more about the ability to engage and help create profiles for student athletes on trying to find opportunities and what it should look like in terms of communication with parties. And Ultimus is more of a regulation standpoint to help us in terms of our department and our structure. We even brought in Dan Lust, who's been our alumni guru, faculty member here at NIL, to help us as we just released and created some policies and protocols of what to follow for student athletes, for coaches, staff, but also for the booster category for alumni and fans. So we continue to get that education out there. Influencer was someone we got involved with early on. We just upgraded our partnership with them to create the Exchange program. The Exchange is an opportunity for student athletes to sign up for and show that they're interested in identifying or being partners for endorsement deals and opportunities. And same on the other side in terms of externally educating the alumni, the fan booster, and how they could get involved with companies and businesses who want to do so. So that big piece was getting the education out there, and now it's a big means of trying to make sure we connect the dots, and also being very clear that the Exchange is a wonderful opportunity if a student athlete has the interest in doing so. Some of our students do not want to do so. They have busy schedules here, whether it be working out or obviously their travel, and obviously their opportunities of internships or jobs. So making sure that it's something that they're interested in doing and not something that is obviously being forced upon where they feel pressure to do so because other student athletes are doing so. But name, image, and likeness is the world we live in. I support it fully. I think it's an opportunity for student athletes to make some money and income. And if there's opportunities to connect the dots and do so, we want to do that in a very healthy and legal fashion.
You know, we talk about connecting the dots. I spoke with Keith Ergo a bit about this, that there are certain opportunities that exist, the alumni network at Fordham, in the city that we live in, to do NIL better than our contemporaries in the Atlantic 10, to do it as well as anybody in the country. How does Fordham do that?
I think it's very advantageous for us, the geographical location we are, being in New York City. I think a lot of our alums who work in the tri-state area, in the business world, I think it's a real opportunity for Fordham to have an advantage over some of our peers in terms of identifying NIL opportunities for students. So I think how do we continue to promote, educate, and support our student athletes that way? Whether that be obviously the opportunity in terms of legal education or pro bono legal opportunities in terms of reviewing a contract. IRS is going to come calling in terms of taxes on any income they want to do. So how do we provide some CPA support as well? And I think really us being at Fordham and one of the top 50 educational institutions in the world is really another advantage for us in doing so. And I really am bullish about how that NIL program for us really is an opportunity for our coaches and staff to help educate and recruit student athletes, but also make sure our student athletes are getting the best advice and guidance possible.
As it pertains to Rose Hill Exchange, you mentioned it earlier, and that being a major stepping stone for NIL for student athletes here at Fordham. Try and describe the process that went into creating that exchange and what it'll actually look like tangibly for student athletes at the beginning and maybe where you view it going in the long term.
I think sky's the limit. I think, reminder that NIL began as an opportunity for student athletes who, we have a student athlete that's a professional tattoo artist. She's now able to give out tattoos and receive income. We have a student athlete who plays a guitar. They're now able to do weddings or special events and get paid for that. Or, of course, being a Division I athlete, they're able to get training and development in their sport and get paid for it. So the simplistic part of that is the beauty of getting paid for those services. I know that the negative part is what you're reading about in the paper in terms of pay for play. And I think, for Fordham, there's some healthy way in the middle that obviously our level of being a mid-major, either Atlantic 10 or Patriot League student athlete. And I think the exchange is an opportunity of, I want to do more, I'm interested in learning more, connecting with more companies and divisions. Or maybe it's not, I kind of put my toe in the water to see what's out there and maybe not get something. So I think it's really a great place for us to be, depending on the interest level of our student athletes, or the ability for them to test the waters and see if it's something they want to pursue or do more of.
And
Live.
the game clock, but only 3 off the shot clock. And ultimately, who knows, maybe these 8 seconds are the one that are going to change the outcome of the game. So we're all going to take a moment and contemplate and get the clock sorted out.
But it's also, I think,
But the lights work.
And we're getting a replacement machine across the court here. So this is not just about the math lining up. And now we have no clocks above the backboards altogether. They're just off as we switch out a motherboard. Now, I'll point out the last time Fordham played here against LaSalle 2 weekends ago, the game was delayed, 5 minutes because the pregame music and lights wouldn't stop. And now we have this delay on the next home game.
Gives us a good chance to look at the A-10 standings.
Why not?
We've gotten far enough into the season now. What a story Rhode Island's been. Richmond is most certainly back. Dayton ranked in the top 25 for the first time all year.
It only took till now somehow.
No kidding. Fordham at 2-1. You look at the bottom half. Davidson brings up the rear, 0-3, along with the 0-4 Duquesne team. But LaSalle's only win here against Fordham. You spoke with Keith Ergo on the coaches podcast this past week. I think he's got a little bit of beef about net, about quads, about Ken Palm. Would you like to enlighten us?
Well, let's begin with this. None of us are smart enough to understand all of the math, and I think those who put these numbers out like the fact that we don't know how they always work. But Fordham goes to St. Bonaventure last weekend and beats a team that is, I think, when they sit right on the dot at 70, it was on the road, top 70 net. That's a quad 1 win. Until you redo the net Saturday night, and because Bonaventure lost to Fordham, a worse computer team than them, they no longer are in the top 70, so therefore it's not a quad 1 win. So Fordham cost itself a quad 1 win by winning at St. Bonaventure on Saturday. That makes no sense. They were a quad 1 team. It was a quad 1 win when the horn sounded. When you woke up Sunday morning, it wasn't anymore because of other games around the country.
Yeah, now I saw this on SportsCenter this morning. 12 of the top 16 remaining strengths of schedule around the country belong to Big 12 teams.
Yeah.
Because they're all playing each other.
Right.
And the computers love what the Big 12 did in non-conference play. So ultimately, they're talking, could every team in the Big 12, regardless of their record, potentially still get into the NCAA tournament at the end of the year because the net loves their accomplishments in non-conference, then they beat each other, and every game suddenly becomes a quad 1 opportunity on the road.
And then we're in that world when we get to March. Is the 10th team from a power conference who might be bothered by the fact that they're 500 in said conference, thinking it's a down or tiers. Give me a second team from a league or a third team from the A-10. Or again, the Missouri Valley. Give me more of those leagues than a middle-of-the-road, benefiting from computer numbers, ACC team or a Big 12 team.
Right. If you're going to give a shot to someone in the dance, if you're going to make the tournament worth watching, I think we were all really there to watch Fairleigh Dickinson the end of the year, weren't we? Here comes Davidson to start the second half. I'm not sure the clock issue got completely settled, but we're good. Play on. And after an extended about 5-minute wait, Bailey off the mark on the first shot of the second half, and here comes Gray.
And that was Abdul Timbilla, who played, I think, 3.5 minutes in the first half because of fouls, playing good defense, not fouling Reed Bailey on that possession.
Yep, 2 fouls in 3 minutes, 35 seconds. And that was all it wrote for Timbilla in the first half. Kyle Rose hit the 3 at the end of the first half to give Fordham the lead. Richardson finds Gray. Gray had no one even in his orbit, but too strong. Here goes Huffman. Kick into the corner. Durkin held off by Richardson, spun around to Kuchera.
And Gray's out there, Mike, to take that shot because Jaffe Medor is not going to return tonight. It looked because of that right ankle injury in the first half. And in fact, Jaffe is not even on the Fordham bench. He is back in the corner of the gym. And I did see crutches over in his general area.
And it looked like he came down awkwardly on his ankle from the film we've seen, although we don't want to guess at what the injury could be. He was helped off with 9:11 remaining in the first half and has not been in the game since.
Well, I'll say this as a complete, obvious non-doctor. As you see Jaffe there, still talking with the training staff, we've got a look at his right ankle foot twisting sideways as he lands.
Yep.
That's at least good news that he wasn't hurt on the takeoff, because then you're concerned about Achilles and stuff like that.
Oh, wow! Bobby Durkin off one leg, falling out of bounds. And maybe he's found it. He's got a smirk on his face.
Got a little low five from his head coach, too.
Ties the game at 37. He's shooting 47% from downtown on the road. Timbilla can get that to fall over Skogman. Maybe that's what it takes for Davidson to find their folly from beyond the arc. It has been, by Davidson standards, an extremely frustrating season shooting from long range. Thrown in toward Richardson and off the bounce off Skogman. Richardson takes over. 2 minutes gone. Rose for 3. Off front rim. Timbilla, the offensive board, drops it in the bucket.
Back-to-back possessions where Abdul Timbilla gets the ball down low position to score. On the first one, just didn't have the urgency, didn't have the tenacity, made one move, but didn't take that next power step to finish. That time, rebound, right back up, basket in. There's Durkin. You saw the shot clock at 1. You see the smirk and the low 5-2. Sometimes being lucky is all you need, and that time they'll take that for sure.
Gray committed the foul. Gray forces the turnover. He missed the jam. Went up for a one-handed dunk that would have sent this place absolutely through the roof. A few too many games where that highlight reel play hasn't happened. Rose got a piece, Bailey persistent, and a foul. It's on Charlton. Charlton's asking who the foul's on. The referee gesturing strongly at him. That is his 3rd.
That's a lot of work by Reed Bailey. Here's the giveaway that sends Gray off, and Elijah's got this one and just somehow, I don't know if he lost control at the last second, but couldn't flush that one through. And then back on this end, he's one of 3 Rams surrounding Bailey, who just kept finding the basketball, and then finally draws a foul, got bumped in the back, I guess, was the call. But he was 1 on 3 and ends up drawing the personal.
Kuchera had a dozen in the first half. Kuchera weaving by Gray. Trip came in for Charlton. There's Huffman. Air ball. Shot clock at 3. Stays with Davidson.
Huffman only a 31% three-point shooter. When he scores, it's usually going towards the rim.
And a coach called Davidson timeout, a 30 that extends to the second half media. Timeout on the floor. Davidson with 3 to shoot, down by 2.
One more. One more.
One more, please. More, guys. One more. Set up.
Hey, kid. Yeah, we'll take one more. Oh, one more.
At Davidson College, the spirit of teamwork goes well beyond sports and extends to all aspects of student life. At Davidson, we're supported by people who are smart, driven, and kind. Here, we promote critical thinking, build bridges between people, and dignify meaningful work. Whatever we're into, wherever we're from, whoever we are, we're part of a community that inspires lives of leadership and service. In everything we do, we are Team Davidson.
It matters. And if they run this play correctly and get a 2 or 3, they immediately tie the game or take the lead. But these are little things that matter. The one argument in my mind to not do this here is that it only leaves you 2 timeouts for the next 17 minutes.
So let's see what Matt McKillop had in mind. Huffman the trigger. Bailey didn't go. Well, they got the look, but Bailey was smothered by Timbilla. So the timeout goes in the waste bin, and Fordham takes over, retaining a 2-point lead. Dean bouncing into Tripp. 2 sophomores and a freshman on the floor here for Fordham. That's unusual. Tripp had that knocked away, and there's a foul.
Jameer Tripp makes a freshman mistake there, gives the ball away, and then in extra frustration trying to get the ball back,
Little bear hug.
adds the personal onto the miscue.
Huffman, he's the tempo setter up against Tripp. That's a travel. Not a lot of turnovers in that first half. That is the 7th for Davidson. Fordham's got 3.
Jameer Tripp, 6'6", 230. You look at him, he looks like a senior. He's only a freshman, and because he's got the size advantage there over Huffman, who's trying to go through Tripp, but he just can't. That's what leads to the travel.
His brother Jalil played in the G League, was the West Coast Conference Defensive Player of the Year, University of the Pacific. Huffman the steal on the pass by Dean. Huffman Euros and puts it in. Grant Huffman showing off a wide array of skills here tonight.
He is a crafty player, and he does that all himself. Like a good cornerback, he reads the pass, jumps the lane, and then the footwork to get to the rim for the 2.
Double tap back to Richardson, and that's a travel. You know, you think about Huffman, he's got a little old school vibe to his game. Picking up points number 8 and 9.
This is pretty. To the other side of the rim as well, with the mouthpiece hanging out too.
Someone in this room stole my autographed basketball, signed by the 1948 All-Star team. So I've called it a specialist. An e-specialist.
Okay, let's start with what we do know. Geico makes it easy to bundle coverage for your car and home. Yeah, even purchase sports memorabilia.
What a relief. Let's get back to charades.
But I was also going to crack the case.
Well,
I'm pretty sure it's true.
Me? It's easy to bundle your home and car. It's easy to Geico.
The 3 for Me, only at Chili's, serves up more deliciousness for just $10.99 than you.
The Home Depot's low.
And knee replacements. Coach McKillop told us that he would sometimes get called in at 6 a.m. and then with his brother and a former Davidson player find ways to get workouts in. He said, and you know what, even with all of that extra work, Grant came back looking better than ever.
Well, he might disagree at the moment because we've mentioned the recent dental work. That's why the mouthpiece is there, which has hindered his ability to be a vocal leader because it's hard to yell instructions when you got the mouth guard in. And I was watching him pregame. He never looked comfortable. He was fucking with his lower lip, tugging at the tooth or whatever was left of the tooth. The mouth guard was in, the mouth guard was out. It's not fully in during the game either. So it's definitely a nuisance, but he keeps producing through it all.
5 in red, receives the inbound for Davidson, and takes it all the way down, scores. Wow, he's going to leave a lot of guys needing hip operations the way he twists and turns through the lanes.
And he knew Tim Billa was coming for the block, and still with his offhand, the left, gets it high off the glass, over Abdu for the 2.
Ryan Sullivan, Jack Gibbs, Peyton Aldridge, all. Wow, Logan got up to meet Tim Billa. All Ohio guys like Huffman. Here's Huffman. Turns away, Durkin feeding Brizzy. Trying to find his offensive game. He turned that over to Rose. Rose, ball got tipped away, falls right into Huffman on the steal by Hunter Adam. Got a bit sloppy here.
6 total turnovers, combined turnovers in the first half. It is definitely sloppier here since halftime, but Davidson with the triple has a 5-point edge.
Durkin 7th in the conference in attempts, 9th in makes from downtown. He hit that one-legged 3 earlier, and that's his second make from beyond the arc. Trip from the elbow.
Rams needed that. A couple of empty trips, but Tim Billa, what looked like an easy dunk, did not at the rim.
Huffman denied at the rim this time by Tim Billa.
Now, he tried once, and it worked. This time on the other side, Tim Billa had the better angle as the primary defender, and he gets the job done.
Tim Billa comes off the floor, mentioned only 3.5 minutes in the opening 20. Stuck 2 points, 4 boards, and that his first block. About 6 minutes gone in the second half. Davidson holding a 3-point lead. Durkin inside, Logan twisting, kicking, out of bounds. Fordham grazed it.
Zach Riley's in the game for Fordham. He did not play against St. Bonaventure. Coach's decision. He did not play in the first half of this game, and here he is now, partially because Jaffe Medor out with the ankle injury. He's riding the bike now, is Jaffe, trying to keep warm across the court from us, but those minutes missing from him go to guys like Riley here.
On the drive, Huffman got his man in the air and scores by Rivera. So Huffman really lighting it up in the second half. He's got 13 points to lead the Cats.
And this is what he did to a larger extent in their last game. At one point, he scored 18 consecutive Davidson points.
Spinning trip. Riley went up for it. Trip second go. Logan with his arms hanging over the top commits the foul.
Great move by Tripp to get to the rim, but then he wanted the offensive rebound after missing. I think he actually prevented Zach Riley right there. Zach might be able to put that ball right back in coming weak side, but Tripp beat him to it and then gets hit, and here come the free throws.
Tripp's second appearance at the line. He's got 8 points tonight. Out of Our Savior Lutheran, you can see Jaffe Medor trying to loosen up that ankle over on the bike behind the Fordham bench.
I don't think, though, this is about getting Jaffe back into this game.
The way he came off seems unlikely. Try and get a further update. We're told questionable to return at the moment. Splits the pair. Davidson up by 4. Logan, the handoff. Huffman's got Riley on a yo-yo. Tipped away from the glass by Logan. off of Rivera, and there's Charlton playing with 3 fouls. Well, who's going to be the hero for Fordham today? It was Kyle Rose at St. Bonaventure. Whoa, what a fake by Gray. And he threw it over Charlton and 4 rows deep.
Elijah's been pretty good recently, Mike, but tonight he's having a tough one. I don't know how much credit he gets for putting Logan on the court there, but then the throwaway to Charlton, and Elijah is 1 of 10 shooting that turnover. He does have 8 rebounds and 2 blocks.
And you know, there's an element of Riley comes in, gets more opportunity in this particular instance with Medor down, but when Rivera was down for those 4 games, Gray stepped up in a major way. Tripp started to get more time. Good find for Logan underneath, trying to work against Gray. Gray got a piece. Playing with 2 fouls. His outlet got picked off, though. Durkin rattled out. There's Riley pulling in the board.
Rams survived that, down by 4. Great, good defense. The throwaway almost spoiled it. They get the miss and the rebound.
Rivera to the rim. Rivera's first points tonight. Only managed 10 minutes. It's a pain tolerance thing, we're told. Didn't practice 2 days ago. Had a great practice yesterday. Bailey, foot on the line too. Charlton pulls in the miss. Fordham down by a pair. Riley finds Tripp against Bailey, bashing his way inside, regains control, under the basket, tipped away, thrown toward Riley. That's a travel. And the frustration there is that the official on the outside called it, not the one who was closest to Tripp.
And that's what Keith Ergo is begging Nathan Farrell for. Greg Evans made the call from the outside. That's Farrell talking to Coach Ergo, and he's not going to help the situation.
Live sports. My daughter says she works in B2B, where she sells SEO and MRM to CPGs. I don't know how this happened. She was speaking in complete sentences before she was 2, and now she just mumbles all these up.
Women's college hoops on ESPN and ABC. The Australian.
And still didn't get teed up. That's as much leeway as you're going to get. That's like Mike Krzyzewski leeway. 30 years on the sideline, hundreds and hundreds of wins, not year 2 and 33 wins. But I understand the frustration because I don't know how the outside guy makes that call when his partner is looking right at the play and doesn't blow his whistle.
Rivera twisting and ties the game at 46.
I also think the call was wrong. I believe the ball was knocked down out of Jameer Tripp's hands.
Right. All the way, Bailey altered by Gray.
And that might have been a foul on Elijah Gray.
Well, an element of that maybe being a bit of a payback. Who knows?
I mean, makeup calls or non-calls are certainly real.
Yep. Rivera, he's got the mismatch on Cochera.
Yeah, he's feeling it right now.
Left out way short. Logan yanks it in. Approaching the midway point of the second half. Davidson led 8-0 right at the opening gun. Outstanding start. Fordham couldn't buy a basket. Rams, the final 15 minutes of the first half, shot 50%. Bailey, that falls off. And the foul is on Rivera. That's his first and the 4th Fordham foul of the second half.
Rams are making it hard for Davidson. The goal today, and there's Rivera reaching in, certainly a foul on 55 and a bad spin for Davidson, not sitting down. The goal today, defensively for the Rams, was to force contested 2s because Davidson wants to shoot 3s, and when they knock them down, they're tough to beat. So they wanted to protect the arc for them, make Davidson take tough 2s, and so far they've accomplished that. Davidson normally takes 25 threes a game. They've only taken 7 in just about 30 minutes of action. So, and to Fordham's, I guess, benefit here, calls that have gone against them in this building previously are not going against them right now so far in this one tonight.
Rose lost his dribble, found Tim Villa showing in the low post. Tied at 48 now. That's a matchup you pay to see. Rose against Huffman. Huffman gave it up. Logan finds Bailey. Rose got his hand in. It goes off the knee of Bailey and out of bounds.
And I think that matchup that you just mentioned, it didn't exist before when Huffman had those 2 or 3 hoops in a row. Rose off the floor. He comes back in, and that is a high-end matchup, especially in the final 10 minutes of a tie game.
Defensive rating describes how many points your team allows in 100 possessions. The Rams as a team, about 104. That's actually pretty good. When Rose or Timbilla are on the floor, it's actually down to 96. They're both top 10 in the conference, that advanced stat. You can see why. Tipped away by Tripp. Picked up by Rivera. Kuchera called timeout in the air. Timeout Davidson. That was one of the best timeouts I've ever seen, although they just used their penultimate timeout.
There was a lot going on there. That's a heck of a chase down to start this by Tripp to knock it away, and then Kuchera,
I've never seen anything like that.
flying through the air with the greatest of ease, knocks it away, runs it down, and gets the timeout. This is ridiculous. What a play. What hustle. What play. But yes, there's 9.5 minutes left in a
A bunny at the edge of the restricted area, and now they use their third timeout here with 9:31 to play, with 29.
But you know what? You need at least one, and they've got that for now. But you have to be able to save yourself from an inbounds situation, right? To avoid a 5-second call.
Yeah, buddy, I think Kuchera made that decision all on his own.
True. But the timeout to get a good shot with 3 on the timer, 3 minutes in the second half, that's the debatable one.
Yeah, absolutely. Skodman gives off. There goes Huffman. Huffman reverses and lays it in. So Grant Huffman, inimitable tonight. 15 points, 5 rebounds, a little bit of everything.
He would be, I said this to you before we came on the air, he'd be a very good Duke point guard. And I say that in a very loving way. America would hate him if he played the point in Cameron. If he was Greg Paulus or Woj, he would be the anti-American sweetheart. That's the kind of player he is, because he's one of those guys who you want on your team, but you also hate playing against him because of the scoring and the defense, the rebounds. He's pesky.
He's missing a tooth, and he's sort of chewing on the mouth guard.
And he's doing surgeries in the offseason,
And
or watching surgeries.
Well, and he went to St. Ed's. Huffman, that one finally didn't go. Skodman offensive board. Tripp corrals.
One too many of those right now for Matt McKillop. His team is 5 of 17 since halftime. And a couple of those misses have been from in tight. Contested, but still tight. Ones you'd want to hit.
Rivera trying to shed Kuchera. Earns a couple of free throws. And he'll have a chance to tie the game on the other side of the break. Davidson hanging on to a 2-point lead here on the road, trying to get off the A-10 schneid.
At Davidson College, the spirit of teamwork goes well beyond sports and extends to all aspects of student life. At Davidson, we're supported by people who are smart, driven,
And you'd think by now he'd be more visibly out of the game if he was hurt that much, right? At this point,
he's a 50% proposition this year. Ties the game at 50. Just under 8 minutes to play in the Bronx. 3 from Huffman. Grant Huffman. Another starring second half for Davidson on the road.
but that's the thing that you'll give him often. You'd rather him take that 3 than drive and finish or drive and dump off for an easier 2 for somebody else.
Rivera bouncing as he nearly fell off the line. Timbilla splashes off the window.
And Henry Lowe, one of Keith Urgo's assistants, basically kind of said that same thing to his head coach after Huffman knocked down that three.
Huffman, everyone went and gravitated toward him, and Bailey was